3:30 in the morning. 3:45. Too damn early.
No, not yet. I'm in my underwear.
Girls love to be on camera at 3 in the morning in their underwear.
Go, go, go.
Oh. That's worth getting up for. Oh.
What time is it? 4:23 a.m. Dick's here. Good morning. We are the only ones in the mall parking lot waiting for our cab to come and get us. And we're on our way to New York.
Now we'd like to invite our first class passengers, rows 1 through 4, our Platinum Silver Gold Elite members to board at this time. General boarding.
We are, what time? 5:30. Sun's starting to come up finally.
Just a picture.
Oh.
What's that? Rather be here than in New York?
Huh?
Yep. Our trip to New York was cut rather short.
We are now in the middle of Grants, New Mexico.
After the FAA ordered all planes grounded because of the bombing in New York City. Not bombing, but planes hijacked. Pretty scenery. We're supposed to be in New York right now.
Amazing.
Crazy world.
Ridiculous.
Awesome. Here's our beautiful Hyundai 4-cylinder compact car that's costing us $700 to drive back to Phoenix in from Albuquerque, where we got stranded. Going downhill, if we get on push, we can get it up to 80 miles an hour. Hi. We're now in Gallup, New Mexico, on our adventure back to Phoenix, and the historical Route 66. And we're probably going to stay here for the night, because we've been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to drive another 300 miles back to Phoenix.
We have a friend.
Best Western. No pool, no bar, so we're not going to stay here. But there is a Sonic. That's a bonus.
His partner is meeting with Clinton right now in Florida about some deal they're working on. And he said, Clinton said, we know who it is, and this is not the end of it. There's some more. We know who it is.
Goodbye.
I say we go back, we saw Holiday Inn and some of the name franchises.
In the southern part of Manhattan, really, if they can leave, to leave.
Hi, honey.
Word are in evidence a large number
I
of
just wanted to
emergency
make sure you
personnel
didn't think I was
vehicles.
on that plane in New York.
My remark from just a few moments when I was down there, which was probably about...
No shit!
after the first explosion and before the
Were you
towers
watching the
collapsed,
news?
I was seeing ambulances coming from places I had never heard of, as if every ambulance that was available,
Yeah.
would probably just put out a call saying, anything out there,
Where?
come. And they had come. The enormity of this has not sunk in, I have to be honest with you, and I
Okay, but you didn't watch the news and then go, oh my God, my mom was on that plane?
Early in my career, I was one of the first reporters on the scene of the crash of the DC-9, American Airlines 191 in Chicago, which is my hometown. So I've seen some of these things, but
Well, I knew you knew we were going to New York this morning.
We're talking about tens of
We never made it.
I don't know, how well they have evacuated.
No, not tonight. We're exhausted. We've been up since 3 o'clock. We had the cab pick us up at 4:30. We went to the airport. We flew like almost to Colorado, our
Our
city.
thing flying now military, right now from the smallest private planes, media
If we
helicopters to
would've
the
left-
largest jets, they're all on the ground as the nation tries to protect the skies.
If we would've left the
The
day before, we would've
aircraft
been
will
stuck there.
remain on the ground at least until 10 a.m. tomorrow. That according to the FAA, that would be the earliest at this point that we would see aircraft take off. Thousands of travelers found themselves staring at the arrival departure screens that change from delayed to canceled.
Nobody there to get in.
where we were.
The airport where you normally go through the X-ray areas here at the Sunport has been gated off. The only people allowed beyond that point are airport security personnel and employees. What's important to note is that eventually air travel will try to resume to somewhat of a normal stance, but when you get to the airport, and right now you're asked to call your airline before you even make an attempt to get to the airport, be prepared for hours of delays. And if you recall back in '91 during the Gulf War, the United States, the FAA instituted precautionary measures at all airports where you were not allowed to go beyond the security checkpoint unless you were a ticketed passenger. So not since the Gulf War have we seen those kind of security precautions here at the Sunport. There were many flights in the air at the time the FAA decided to ground air traffic. 15 of those flights were diverted here to the Sunport. Many of them familiar sight here at the Sunport. No unusual jets diverted here, and arriving within the hour will be some passengers that were supposed to fly southwest from Lubbock here to Albuquerque. They're arriving by bus and should be here at 5:45. Again, if you have a flight out tomorrow, we're told by the airlines that regardless of restrictions on your ticket, and a lot of you might wonder, is my ticket still valid? Just about all the airline people we've talked to and their websites are indicating that your tickets are valid, but be patient, be prepared for some major delays as the aircraft across the country finally take to the skies once again. And again, that's not going to happen at least until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Back to you.
New York to LA,
And of course, once they make all those arrangements, there's going to be a lot of delays because there will be increased security at the airports. And with the airport closed, a lot of people are stranded. Naturally, visitors are looking for other ways to get home.
10:28 a.m. Much of the top floors of the other tower also fell to the streets below.
Second building has just come down.
Firefighters and police officers found themselves momentarily helpless,
trained to save others, they suddenly had to save themselves.
So yeah, we've been attacked, like World War II.
Tonight, crews are standing by to start searching for the thousands of people feared missing in the debris. James Walker, ABC News, New York.
Well, you hear fire. Nobody is accustomed to tragedy to a greater extent than firefighters. You hear the firefighter there describing as World War II. I want to go back and reach into our earlier coverage today for a couple of things. But first, I know that most of the people at the ABC News bureaus around the country are out covering the story. Any of them who we could get to come in and give us some sense of the mood of the country as a whole at the moment would be very much appreciated, even if they call in on the telephone. A little earlier today, ABC's Lynn Scher put together a package for us in which we asked someone to take the radar monitoring that the Federal Aviation Administration does of the entire country in components all the way across the country of this one particular aircraft that they were able to track from Boston, maneuvering in such a way that it became clear to them at a horrifying moment that this was an aircraft not following its flight plan, that was headed to New York City. And if you put that together with the sense that some people got from the aircraft that there was something going on board these aircraft, it simply horrified everybody in the law enforcement establishment, not to mention the two airlines, American and United, are involved. And Charlie Gibson and I have just momentarily been talking with us. Have we got this video available? Can we just move this video up and we'll listen first to the man who tracked this one aircraft. Remember, there were two. Tracked this one aircraft as it was headed towards New York City.
Plane took off about 8 o'clock out of Logan in Boston on its way to Los Angeles, climbed to 29,000 feet and cruising at about 450 knots. About that time, 8:28, the flight took an immediate hard left turn due south, and the speed initially decreased by over 100 miles an hour, and then increased to over 500. Then as it approached the New York area, it slowed to all the way down to about 300 knots. So, and then tragically it impacted in the World Trade Center. American 11 was indeed the first flight, we have confirmed that, of the two.
But as ABC's Charlie Gibson points out in this conversation with me just a moment, Charlie, there were two rogue aircraft who were out of flight pattern.
Well, Peter, the two airplanes that hit the two twin towers at the World Trade Center were both out of Boston. That was a description of what happened to Flight 11, which was the first one to come into the towers. And just looking at the timing, it's interesting. The plane took off at exactly 8 o'clock from Logan Airport in Boston, and it was at 8:28 that it took that hard left-hand turn and then crashed into the World Trade Center at about 8:45. So that means for 17 minutes, some air traffic controller had to know that they had a rogue aircraft on their hands heading for New York City. The other flight, the one that went into the second World Trade Center, and that was United Flight 175, a 767 that had taken off for Boston for Los Angeles, took off at 8:15. Then just after it passed the Massachusetts-Connecticut border heading west, just south of Pittsfield, Massachusetts, the flight took a 30-degree turn to the south, left toward New Jersey, then another 90-degree turn. It was heading toward Atlantic City, and then it took another hard turn northeast, basically doing a U-turn over New Jersey and slammed into the to the building at 9:03. So again, for a considerable period of time, the air traffic controllers had to know that they had not one but two rogue aircrafts heading for New York.
Thanks, Charlie, very much. Now we want to go to Washington. I think it's Washington because the Attorney General, John Ashcroft, is about to make a public appearance in the White House press room, the man, of course, responsible for the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Today, America has experienced one of the greatest tragedies
ever witnessed on our soil. These heinous acts of violence are an assault on the security of our nation. They are an assault on the security and the freedom of every American citizen. We will not tolerate such. Encourage for individuals to come forward in situations like this, and I urge anyone with information that may be useful and helpful to authorities to use this opportunity. The Office of Victims of Crime has established a toll-free 800 number for family and friends of victims. They can call 800-331-0075 to leave contact information for a future time when more information is available, to find out information about a victim, or to find out information about the rights of victims and the services available to victim survivors and victim families. The determination of these terrorists will not deter the determination of the American people. We are survivors, and freedom is a survivor. A free American people will not be intimidated, nor will we be defeated. We will find the people responsible for these cowardly acts, and justice will be done. Ron? And this is Tommy Thompson.
Every single American
Health and Human Services
lost something today. And every one of us at this time expresses our deepest sympathy to the victims of today's tragedies and their families. It is now our mission to begin the healing from this tragedy. From the moment that we learned of these attacks, the Department of Health and Human Services has begun readying teams and resources to be sent to New York City and the Washington area to meet any needs of state and local officials. So far, we have sent 4 disaster medical teams to New York City, and 3 of these disaster medical teams to the Washington, Northern Virginia, Baltimore area. These medical teams each consist of about 35 physicians, nurses, and emergency medical technicians. They are all trained to deal with traumatic injuries and other emergency needs. We've also sent 4 disaster mortuary operational response teams to New York and 3 to the greater Washington area. We're also in the process of shipping a great deal of emergency medical supplies to New York City with the help of the Centers for Disease Control. In short, we're making the full force of the Department of Health and Human Services, both its resources and medical expertise available to the areas that need our assistance. We've also this afternoon activated the United States Public Health Service Commission Corps, which consists of approximately 6,000 health professionals. We also are giving backup assistance to the 500-bed ship Comfort from the United States Navy.
Worst of human nature, and we responded with the best of America. With the daring of our rescue workers, with the caring for strangers and neighbors who came to give blood and help in any way they could. Immediately following the first attack, I implemented our government's emergency response plans. Our military is powerful and it's prepared. Our emergency teams are working in New York City and Washington, D.C. to help with local rescue efforts. Our first priority is to get help to those who have been injured and to take every precaution to protect our citizens at home and around the world from further attacks. The functions of our government continue without interruption. Federal agencies in Washington, which had to be evacuated today, are reopening for essential personnel tonight and will be open for business tomorrow.
Our financial institutions remain strong, and the American economy will be open for business as well. The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I have directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbor them. I appreciate so very much the members of Congress who have joined me in strongly condemning these attacks. And on behalf of the American people, I thank the many world leaders who have called to offer their condolences and assistance. America and our friends and allies join with all those who want peace and security in the world. And we stand together to win the war against terrorism. Tonight I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds have been shattered, for all whose sense of safety and security has been threatened. And I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us, spoken through the ages in Psalm 23. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. This is a day when all Americans from every walk of life unite in our resolve for justice and peace. America has stood down enemies before, and we will do so this time. None of us will ever forget this day, yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you. Good night, and God bless America.
President George W. Bush, in his second address to the nation, and certainly the most grave speech that he has made in his very young presidency, as he talked tonight about the terrorists attempting to shatter steel in buildings but not being successful in shattering the steel of resolve in this country, saying the bright light of freedom will continue to burn. He was a sorrowful and sober president, but also one filled with resolve, as he said, we will find the people who are responsible for this and bring them to justice. This has been a long and difficult day for the president, and it's just the beginning, because there are many complex decisions that remain ahead of him now. NBC's Tim Russert joins me now from the Washington Bureau, where he is our Washington Bureau chief and moderator of
Ladies and gentlemen, our heroes will now open the marketplace. The green button.
And there you have it from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, the opening of the markets. A great deal of reference shown for the firefighters of New York City, the firefighters from all over the country that have come in here, and a defiance statement from the chairman of the New York Stock Exchange saying the U.S. will find, punish, and in his words, obliterate those responsible for these terrorist attacks, saying that the 2 minutes of silence were meant to reflect on those lost, those killed, those injured in New York, Pennsylvania, and New York, and those that might still be alive. And you can see the NASDAQ has a new look, work site, a new look right now, with the big words open across the front of the facade. It was an amazing group of people surrounding the chairman of the stock exchange this morning. Dick Grasso's flanked by the governor of New York, both Senators Hillary Clinton and Senator Chuck Schumer, as well as firefighters, police officers, and other folks involved in the massive effort to continue the rescue and cleanup operation. Let's go to Lou Dobbs right now for what he saw during the moment of silence and what he saw.
Airlines, of course, we knew would be hard hit today, and they are being, we have a very weak open, and we're